Hey, legends, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. Big episode today. We're going to talk about showboating. Yay or nay? We're going to go into that. There's a lot of comebacks this week, too. Is this one of the craziest seasons yet? I'm not too sure. I thought Carlton was in the top 2 like last week. It's insane. And lastly, we're going to talk about that Collingwood versus Sydney game and dissect a bit of what happened. There's a lot in this episode, so settle in because we're starting the podcast now. All right, legends, it is a big podcast, so we're going to get straight into this one. Welcome, Brayden.
Oh, g'day, Mace. I want to jump into my clanger because it's a beauty.
Right away.
I want to say every team in the AFL is getting the clang this week because no one wants to win the flag.
Oh, come on.
Not
mate.
one team in this competition wants to win the flag because no one is willing to step up and grab it. At the moment, we're looking at someone like a GWS maybe. Port's going okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, like their coaches were going to get sacked halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at the teams that were flying and they're crap. They're all out of the 8. Collingwood, Essendon, and Carlton were top 4 a few weeks ago. Now where are they? We're looking at Freo. Freo could have been second 30 times this year. And now I know there's not even 30 rounds in it, and that's how crap they've managed to be. I just don't understand it. People are saying how exciting the year is and how exciting the season is, but it's not for any good reason. Every team is falling down. We're seeing like the least Essendon. They go and do a massive comeback last week, and I know if you're an Essendon fan, I gave you shit last week, and there's going to be a heap more heaped on you this week because bloody hell, you had a crappy game on the weekend. And crap is going to be a word I use a lot in this podcast. But you go out, you come back and you beat Freo last week. Oh, yeah, we're still a chance for finals. And then you kick 1-9 in the last quarter to lose by a point after the siren. Oh, my goodness. Talk about whatever the opposite of clutch is. They're the brake. They're the brake. There's the accelerator. There's the clutch. And then there's the brake. All these teams are just falling off, choking, fumbling the bag. No one wants to win the grand final this year. We should just call it off. We should call it off. Sydney has just scraped through on the top of the ladder, and they've been losing for the last month.
Are you okay?
Oh, it's just crap. What's the point of this? What are we doing? Why are we here? Go grab a couple of sandful teams, a couple of waffle sides, and see if they want it.
That's why Tassie's coming in.
Oh, my God. Tassie could come in and sweep this.
Sweep the comp.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, it's good to see you're having a great day, Brayden.
I don't get it. And all these comebacks and stuff, there's like fumbling the bag inside of fumbling the bag. It's like these teams don't want to win the game, but they're also losing from 30 points up.
It's a very unpredictable year. Very unpredictable year,
It's
Brayden.
a crap year, mate. But we sit here and we wait till finals and hope that it all turns around in finals because you look at finals and you look at the teams that are in there and you go, I don't know who's going to take this thing, but hopefully it works out for the best. I hope they all get it together, all in finals, and they all stand up because they're all falling over at the moment.
If you're kicking 1-9 in a quarter in finals, how you feeling?
Oh, my God. Imagine that. Imagine that. I couldn't contain myself to my seat. I would
feel
have
like
to.
you'd burn the place down.
I'd have to go and do something. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like some fans, we give them stick for the other week for booing or whatever. I think booing is like, that's showing a fair amount of restraint. Like how angry I would be kicking 1-9 and going down by the Oppo team kicking 2 straight goals. One after the siren. Oh,
yeah, I loved Mac's goal. I'm all for it. I was a Gold Coast guy.
Yeah.
I just was. I loved it. You know what he did? Bit of shh.
And he kicked 4 for the game. 4 for the game.
Absolutely loved it.
Now talk about clutch.
Yeah.
Big Mac.
The big fella. Anyway, well, it's great. Great to know your clangers. Essentially, everyone in the AFL, you're loving the season so far. It's been great. I'm assuming a lot of your multis have lost. I'm assuming there's some financial reasons to this.
I haven't had any money in the account for months. I haven't been putting them on.
All right, well, good. That's a great start. We're going to go with my clanger is not going to be IFL. It's actually going to be related to the Olympics. Now, in the Olympics, the closing ceremony, obviously, beginning of this week, and France had some incredible opportunities. Obviously, it's in Paris. It's in their big city there in Paris, and They had men's basketball. They had women's basketball. They had the break dancing, which they brought in. They decided to say, you know what, we're pretty good at this. We're going to actually bring the sport into the Olympics so we can guarantee a gold. And then they also had men's soccer.
Yeah.
So 4 of like the big team sports that everyone watches. They have like very good players in all those different events. They go to the grand final or the final game of all of them. And all 4 of those, they lose. They get silvers in. They had a chance to just go out on a high note in one of any of those 4. And they just, like you would say, fumbled the bag.
Yeah.
Absolutely fumbled the bag.
The breakdancing one for me, you can't pick a sport. It's like when it comes to Australia in a couple Olympics time. If we put AFL in there and they stitched us up, bloody Bali beats us or something.
Bali beats us. The Bali geckos.
Yeah, they got liver plan for them. But I don't know. You can't bring in your own sport. And while we're on it, the soccer. What's the point of that in the Olympics? Because it's not all the big stars are in there. It's like the under-21s men's B reserve team.
There's a few stars. There's a few stars, but
there's like it's not. You're not watching
It's the World Cups. They're pinnacle. I do understand that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the X Games with the skateboarders. I think X Games is probably a bit more than gold medals. But anyway, that's mine. France, you suck.
I think most people can get around France sucking. We'll get around that. Let's jump into some results. Bad one off the top Friday night footy. Sydney getting the job done over Collingwood. We will
move on pretty quickly from that. Yep.
We'll talk about that later, dissect it, deep dive in it. Just live through the pain. Brisbane, Harrow in the booth, loves this one. Brisbane getting done at home to GWS. He's giving us the finger behind the scenes. North Melbourne, oh my God, talk about fumbling the bag, but no one really caring. North lost to West Coast in Tassie. Talk about the most irrelevant thing you've ever heard in your life. Fremantle dropped another one at home this time against the geriatric Geelong team over there. Essendon. I'm just so sorry to all the Essendon supporters out there because it's going to be another 20 years. Gold Coast getting their first away win for the year.
Huge. You could say it was an important one for Essendon to win too.
I think Gold Coast just waited until Dimmer's got to just be kicking himself in the shins because it's like, oh, when can we not make finals? All right, now? Yeah, okay, now we'll win an away game. Like, do it when it matters. Anyway, Melbourne, oh my God, kicks them. There's 51-53, go down to Port Adelaide. Not a very exciting shootout, that one. Carlton. Oh, Carlton.
This was wild.
Oh, Carlton.
And it's some dire circumstances over there at Carlton.
Well, Carlton got absolutely flogged by 80-odd points against Hawthorn. Hawkball, up and about. They replaced them in the top 8. Carlton out of the top 8. They were second the other week. Yeah. Richmond getting flogged by St Kilda. We all know they've knocked off, which is fine. It's a long year. Knock off. You just recover. Adelaide getting the job done over Western Bulldogs. It's not
didn't expect that one.
It's not like a crazy result because Adelaide's been good this year. It's just we thought Western Bulldogs were on a tear, so that's a costly little speed bump in their season.
It was my cock lock of the week last week, so you're welcome, everyone out there.
What did I don't even remember what I said, but it would have been something good.
For Geelong, probably.
Yeah, probably.
No, let's get into the hot topics. What do you got for us?
Oh, is this season the wildest and/or slash shittest season we've ever seen in footy? I'll let you answer that one.
Glasses half full. Just optimism here. This season is wild. I think ever since I've come to this country 10 years ago, this has been the closest I've seen it for the whole time I've been here. Like, it's just to see, like you said, like Carlton was 2, I feel like, a week ago, and now they're out of the 8. And then you're looking at other teams that were on the verge, and Essendon, they're not there, then they're not there. And at the beginning of the year, they were like pretty much a lock. People were saying of like top 8, we're finally making finals. Now people are going, I don't know. It is such an interesting, and I'm like, if you just sit there and say like, out of the top 8 teams right now, obviously we hope that Collingwood, makes into the 8, makes finals. If you were to take us out of there, if I were to say who's going to win besides us, like I have no idea. There is not a clear-cut favorite. Like the Sydney at the top, they've lost quite a few games as of recent, so you want to have form going into finals.
Yeah, what's your power rankings? If you had like a top 5, let's go top 5 power rankings. Right now, you got to take Collingwood out of it, which is going to be hard if you take them out of it, but let's take Collingwood out of it, and you got to pick top 5.
Jeez, I would say Brisbane's probably 1 at the moment.
Okay.
I know that's a controversial
They just
one
lost
because
at home to GWS, who's on a massive
they
streak.
did. I put GWS at 2.
Okay.
But the thing is, GWS, like, they'll have to play at MCG, which is an interesting. They're a pretty good travel team, I will say. But like, I think they've lost a few times in finals, and like you look at like Geelong. I almost put like Geelong kind of even with them because they kind of got experience of being able to play on the big stage and in finals. So I think those are kind of like the teams I'm looking up there, probably the top 4 there. And maybe that order, maybe a few shifted around, but I think those are the ones you're looking at going. Port Adelaide too. Port Adelaide's got to be in there.
What about Hawthorn?
Look, Hawthorn's the most probably momentum team right now. You can say that comfortably, right?
Well, they're beating good teams by big margins.
Yeah, and you'll be interested to find out if there's a certain point where their youth becomes a little bit detrimental. And you wonder if a team like Geelong plays them in a finals or something like that, and you go, okay, Geelong's been here before, understands the experience, understands what to expect, and uses that to the advantage. I think Hawkball's just wild at the moment. Like, it's nuts. The score of Carlton over the weekend, like I kind of went to go see a friend on Saturday for a lunch with one of my mates, and he was like sitting there. I got to his place and I was riding my bike and I totally messed it up, and I had to ride my bike through the MCG. And it was literally probably 15, 20 minutes before the game started. So you can imagine me in about 50 to 60,000 like Carlton fans going there, and I'm just sitting there swerving in and out of these Carlton fans and making double looks, going like shh, and they're going, "F you, mate, go back to America, you prick!" Like, it was just the worst route I probably could have taken. Yeah, and I stuck to it. I fought the seas of Carlton fans, and I got to my destination, but. Yeah, it's it's an interesting one. It is one of the craziest seasons. I honestly have no idea how it's going to finish, which makes it, I think, great for the AFL. Probably not great for their bank account, but great for the AFL in that sense to have, I think I was looking at the top 8, and there's quite a few there kind of teams that are outside of Melbourne that they probably want to try to promote. Like you look at Sydney, Port Adelaide, GWS, these that they've got Brisbane, teams they want to kind of show that their expansion through the rest of the country is successful.
It's going to be a wild result because, like, if you look at the combinations as it stands, as the top 8 stands right now, which is probably not how it's going to finish. Yeah. There's some shocking combos in there for attendance for like a prelim or a grand final. Like, I don't know. I don't know if they're happy or upset. They get to grow the game outside of Victoria because there's not a lot of like great Victorian representation in there. But something like a Sydney GWS granny, they would probably be happy with to grow it up there. I can't imagine like a Port GWS or like a Port Hawthorn or something would be doing good numbers. But hey, we'll see how it goes.
Time will tell, man. Time will tell.
We'll see how it goes. This weekend was the weekend of the comeback, and we've been seeing it a lot. But a lot of teams coming from behind. We saw Brisbane get run over by GWS. They were up by 5 goals, obviously, the Collingwood game. There was a lot of these comeback wins by massive margins, big 5, 6 goal margins over the past few weeks. Why are we seeing more and more of this in the game?
I think probably since the 666 change, you can kind of see it because a lot of it's like center bounce momentum. Like if you can gain territory from center bounce very quickly and you kind of get on top in that area for a chunk of time, it just allows you to gain territory so quickly. And then because it's even numbers, you kind of have that, that chance of being able to score pretty quickly. So like back in the day, you used to just flood 10 people in the back line. It's like, well, good luck. It's almost impossible to try to get a decent kick of the ball with, that many people around you. But nowadays I feel like if you score 1 and then you get out of the center bounce again, you can get like 2, 3 pretty quickly. And it just kind of gives you the opportunity where back in the day, it was like you just kind of flood people behind. And the more the game is like stopped and stuff, the more people they kind of put behind the ball and the harder it is to actually score. So I think once you kind of have that stoppage, you go 666. And it's like if you don't score bang right after that, then it might slow down the pace a bit. But these teams that go like bang, score, bang, score, bang, score, it's because they're getting out of the center bounce and getting into the forward line with, I guess, a better chance of scoring with less defenders there than whenever a team, is trying to flood back numbers. So I think that's the reason why. Obviously, over the weekend, we kind of felt that and weren't able to get over the line. But it allows for exciting football, I think, which is a good thing, but frustrating for me at the moment.
Yeah, and I think Sydney are one of the best at it. They got so many dynamic midfielders that are just brute force and pace. We talk about like Warner and Heaney and these guys who had massive last quarters for Sydney. Yeah, and it feels like a lot of the stars, like Zach Butters and Horny Frank, like some of those Port players, like they stick in my mind. A lot of these players straight from the ruck tap, coming straight out of the front of stoppage and can just like pump it in. It's that, and I feel like the stand rule has just put so much speed on the game. So you got to be able to run out games. Teams can, I thought Collingwood on the weekend really busted ass early to put on that pressure.
Yeah.
And as the game went on, I was like, I hope they can maintain it throughout the whole game. Now, I don't know if you guys are just absolutely gassed or what, but we just see it more and more and more. If you're under the pump later in games,
it's tough to turn the momentum now.
Yeah,
it really is. The best you can do is mostly just stim it and then try to change it in your direction. But it's not like, I don't feel like a team scores 4 and then it's like the other team scores 4 again, against right after, right? Like it's kind of 4, maybe 1 or 2, and then 1, then 1 or 2. It's not like 4 goals, 5 goals. It's either you're kicking a bunch and the other team's not kicking much, or you're somewhat even pale.
Yeah. And that's why if Carlton could somehow make finals now, if they rally and win these last 2, make it back in there, as we saw last year, they can be out of it, and then their fans, the cheer, the roar of the Carlton fans can just bring them straight back into it. We saw it with Collingwood. Moving on, though, because there's a lot of old dogs getting around the competition playing some really good footy at the moment. And we see games increasing overall, big numbers, a lot of 250-game celebrations, Pendle's 400-game celebration. Is the age of players, on average, just going to keep increasing over time?
Yeah, I think it's I don't think just in the AFL. I think in sport in general. Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the availability of kind of recovery and the knowledge that we're getting around bodies and how to kind of, have supplements to help you kind of, with your aches and pains and things like that. Like there's so much, I think like medically we've been able to further ourselves as a society and everything else to be able to help people, live longer. I think like just a general, like the life expectancy of people is actually longer and longer and longer every year we go. So I think it's kind of similar and probably aligns with, people's athletic, journeys and how long that lasts. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty normal to be seeing people, playing 300 games in a career. A lot of it comes down to quite a bit of luck and like injuries that are long term. Like some people have like an ACL or other people
Genetics.
Just have there's some that like just don't get injured, and there's some people that just can't not get injured, right? Like, I think of like so many people that I've known throughout my career. It's like you hear about all the great stories, right? You hear about all the people that play the multiple games and all the milestones and stuff, but every one of those, there's probably 20 people that just like never got a good run at it.
Yeah.
And just kept getting injuries at the wrong time or whatever it was, or, maybe wasn't under the coaching staff or whatever it may be. And for every one successful one, there's probably 20 that just don't really pan out.
Yeah. I think the professionalism of the kids coming through now is like next level. Because you think of back when Pendles first started in the game, kids coming through weren't prepared for it at all. I remember Tim Brummett, former teammate of yours, when they would take the draftees to the supermarket to grab, they said, you go out there and grab what you think is a good, responsible, nutritious meal, and then we'll course correct. And he came back with like a full trolley full of like fiery Cheetos and soft drink. And it's like, how are you?
It's dairy. It's Cheetos. It's almost got cheese in the name.
How are you that far off? And it's just like, I feel like kids now are coming in so well prepared. I reckon there'll be a bit of a lag period from like Pendle's time, and then as these kids come in and they're just, raring to go, we're seeing players hit the scene like and playing great footy in year 1 and 2. Like
there's less people that can just get away with doing the minimum. Like it is getting to that point where if you're not fully like committed to it, you're just gonna get spat out of the system. Whereas like back in the day, I feel like if you're just that good of a talent, you can just kind of get by with it probably.
Yeah.
But nowadays with, like I said, like everyone that's able to kind of get these 1% from, different things that now we're able to have knowledge of, they're able to extend their lifetime in the league and, maybe be able to jump over the guys that are just naturally gifted.
Talking about kids, I want to speak about taunting and showboating in the AFL. I, for one, love it. And it's not only the kids. We see it a lot. Sam Draper did the hand in the
Turkish man.
The Turkish man. I think there was like 3 of them over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
Even Pendles. Old dog Pendles is doing little taunts.
I think that's for his
he's like
it's for his high school team. He's like coaching, I think,
or whatever. But it's like more and more is coming into the AFL. It's crazy, but it's awesome that the kids feel comfortable to do it, like from game one. Like to see them out there, like just bringing excitement to the game. Do you reckon the taunting and the showboating post goal and all that stuff, we'll only see more and more of it as we go along? It seems very American culture driven.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I think the AFL probably, enjoys it, but the top dogs of the AFL probably don't. I think there's like at the end of the day, we are entertainers. We go out there to entertain people, and like that is part of entertainment, is like doing things that are different and outside of just the normal of like kicking a goal, walk back to the center bounce, right? Like I just think there's so much more, and there's so much passion with the players involved. And it just adds to the game. Like it adds to it. Like I think a lot of people look at Guinea, right? And they go, oh, well, I know who Jack Ginnivan is. And I'm like, do you know him because of the way he plays or because of the aura that is Jack Ginnivan, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think people probably don't really realize that like they follow him because of the aura that he is. And I'm all for it, man. I think it's like, it just adds to the whole experience. And you get taunted every single game over the fence. And it's like, why can't you give it back? Like I just don't. As long as it's within like societal, okayness whenever it comes to these things, right? There's obviously things you can't say and do, but there's so much that goes on beyond the fence, and you're sitting there and you're supposed to just cop it and just sit there in your box and not do anything.
Yeah,
it's like I can give it back to them. Like if they're gonna be assholes, like screw it, stuff it, give it back to it.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to the kids watching the game. They love it. They know it. They learn it from school. They have access to social media where they see it every day. So I feel like it'll be a chance to grow the game. You speak about Jack Ginnivan and knowing him outside of footy. There's people that wouldn't watch footy and would know Jack Ginnivan. There's people that are outside footy and would know Bailey Smith. Like it's a great way to make the AFL superstars even bigger and like broader than just the game of AFL. So
I think of like Dersma from like Port Adelaide is like bow and arrow. Yeah. And like that is not detrimental to anyone. No. There's nothing to do with else, but whose celebration that is. Yeah. And that's cool. It's cool to have something that's like purely specific to you. Like I think of people that do the USA chant. It's like that's very specific to myself. And like someone that goes to a game is going to go, oh, like he must have kicked a goal because they're chanting that. Or like that must have been Dersma because he did the like bow and arrow, right? Like it's kind of cool to have like individual uniqueness about each player that's playing out there. And hopefully the AFL continues to encourage it.
Now, speaking about the AFL, we did talk about Malays last week, and we weren't big on the promotion of them after the fact because the fine system is brought in to de-incentivize players from getting into Malays. Yeah. Now, there was another big one on the weekend, a great one, a juicy one.
A juicy one.
I know it was juicy because it was up there on the AFL website, so I watched it because I missed it in the game. So I got to watch it on the website. And then I just went around Malvern just shaking people and jumper punching them. No, I didn't. I didn't do that. I haven't taken it off into everyday life. But
do you come straight from the divvy man?
A lot of big fines dished out. So $42,500 in fines.
$42,500.
That'll come down to a nice, small, neat little number, $27,500 if they all plead guilty. So obviously another big kickback. But we did ask where the money goes because, we assume it goes straight to the Christmas party. Yeah. I still have my doubts, but there was an article written a couple of weeks ago on the AFL website that did say that all fines, donations to the AFL, and they're given to concussion research on behalf of the players. So to look after yourself, you're doing your own concussion research by donating money back into concussion research off the fine.
I would love to know how much they're donating to the concussion research.
Well, last year it was over $200,000. Now,
according to this, we're donating $42,500 in one round.
27.5.
That might just be us covering their bill.
Yeah. I wonder how much they need. It's one of those when you're like, so
I wonder who's more invested technically if you're taking fines from us and putting it towards it. Who's more invested in concussions?
When you ask, what's your budget for this? And it's like, we've got $200,000. Oh, yeah, it's going to cost $200,000. It's one of those jobs. But just for those people wondering where the money does go, it actually
goes to a good thing.
It goes somewhere.
We appreciate, right?
Which is good.
Yeah. We don't get to choose the spot, but it is nice.
Where it goes. It's good. It's good. Anyway, we move on to the big winners, and there was a couple of big winners this week. I don't know if there was a bigger one than Hawthorn. They moved into the 8 after being on quite a win streak. Obviously, they went 0-5 or whatever at the start of the season, so they're on the back foot. Gave everyone in the competition a head start. Now they're in the 8 after knocking Carlton out by beating them by 80-odd points. Absolutely annihilated them, both on the scoreboard and their playing list. Carlton came out of that with a hell of a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
I want to know, do you think that they're the scariest team outside the top 4 at the moment?
I think they're the scariest team that teams might look past.
Like if you were in the top 4, you lose your first final, you have to go into the second semi or whatever the hell it's called nowadays, and you had to verse Hawthorn.
You'd be going, I hope that they don't get on top of us early.
I reckon they're that scary.
Oh my gosh, hell yeah, they're scary. Like if you're sitting there as this team that's just lost a bit of confidence and momentum from losing a top 4 match, you'd be a bit nervous going into that game because they are the team that's in form. Like they're the ones that have this momentum going, and there's anything is possible, and they have the utmost confidence right now.
Yeah,
and it's great to see. Like I love to see. It's entertaining as hell. If you're lining up against them, like you're going into that team meeting as a coach going, do not take these guys for granted.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because obviously we don't know. They're obviously a young as team, a lot of inexperience, so we don't know how they will perform on the final stage. At this point in time, they've answered most of the questions asked of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Over the weekend, that was the biggest statement I think they've had all year.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if they, if they shine under the bright lights of finals or not. But, they're going to make it first. But they're in a pretty good position as it stands. GWS, another big winner from the weekend, went to Brisbane and beat Brisbane, who was on a 9-game winning streak.
Yikes.
They came from behind again. Giants have done that a couple of times now to end the streak at 9.
Yeah. Pretty impressive, eh?
Are they?
At an away game. Like I said, GWS actually plays really well away.
Are they flag favourites? For me, at the moment, you said you've got Brisbane as your number 1 seed. I'd have to challenge that with GWS. They just beat them at the Gabba to knock off their 9-game win streak. Brisbane, they're still shaky a little bit in their back half. And then GWS, forward half, Jesse Hogan, he could do anything. Toby Green's coming into form. The Cadman. They said the Cad boy turned into the Cad man over the weekend. But it was a very impressive win and ended up doing it semi-comfortably. They were behind by a few. They kicked, what was it? How many goals in the last quarter? It was 1 goal, 2 or something to 6 goals or 4 goals or something late. Late in the last. So they ended up running over Brisbane late in the last. I feel like I've got them as flag favourites. They've had enough.
About halfway through the year, you were about to jump off the bandwagon.
Which I did.
You were so close.
Almost isn't jumping off.
Almost isn't.
I gave them a rocket. And what you should be, this is the journalist in you. This is the AFL media journalist in you. What the article headline should say is Loyal Cox sticks with GWS.
You don't even know the team name.
What Grady Sydney Western.
Greater Sydney out west.
Anyway, my boys, the Greater Western Sydney Giants, the big sound. I reckon they're the scariest team in the comp right now, and if they can do it at the Gabba against Brisbane, I feel like they can do it against anyone, anywhere, anytime.
They're going to be a force, that's for sure. Over the next month, they're going to be an absolute force. Biggest thing is just staying healthy going into it. If they can just continue to do that. Am I putting the jinx out there?
No, I was just thinking of the next headline because we moved straight into Geelong and it's very Collingwood-esque. Are Geelong too old, too slow? are they going to do damage in finals? Because at the moment, they're in decent form.
Yep.
But if you're watching the games, you're looking at Jeremy Cameron just absolutely dragging them across the line, and you're looking at Dangerfield doing it from the midfield and sneaking forward, kicking some clutch goals.
Yeah.
Old dogs. Now
Old
we
dogs
know
keeping them along.
We know Danger has some injury concerns, and he's hopefully he's gotten over that. He could take his time this year and get himself back well. Jeremy Cameron started the year pretty good, then had a slow patch, but he's well and truly back into form at the moment.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's closely tied to those two senior players.
You could say so, yep.
But do you reckon they can go all the way?
Yes. I think their biggest kind of advantage between them and the rest of the competition is their experience, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think whenever it comes to those big games, big game moments, being able to handle the pressure of a close game and a win or go home would definitely put them in good. But I mean, like that's, if Jez goes down, called it. Like, you're done. Like, I don't know how they're going to be able to recover from that. So it's kind of one of those things where it is, I mean, they're obviously a very good team in the top 8 right now and playing well, but they're one step or injury away from like the whole thing being shaken up.
Yeah.
So as long as they stay healthy, they're a chance as anyone else, really.
Yeah. What about Tom Hawkins? Interesting situation they've got. He's fighting for fitness. He's back at training. Now, we know it's his last year, but he's not calling it immediately like Dusty.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that go into this. If he's not 100%, say he's 80%.
Yeah.
Firstly, do you play him in that last game in Geelong against West Coast for a potential send-off game?
No.
No?
I'd wait till finals.
Okay, so you're waiting to finals.
But then, the send-off thing, because you might not play another home game.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
And he mightn't get up for finals. Do you bring him back for finals? What percentage does he have to be at for you to bring him back for finals? Is Hawkins at 80%? Is Hawkins at 90% good enough to get back into the team for finals?
I think 75, to be honest with you. I mean, like, he's not a guy that's, doing what Jez is doing, going all the way up the ground and coming all the way back. Like, he's a person that, like, if he isn't 100%, you can still put him as the deepest man. Just tell him to, like, body up whoever it is. And he can be dangerous in that sense, right? So I think you look at, like, 75%. And you'd be like, you at 75% are going to probably give us enough for us to find it worthwhile to play you.
Yeah, he would be a scary opponent. They've got some young forwards up there, but if you're going into a final and you're standing next to big Tom Hawkins, big hulking dude.
He's got to bring the biggest defender.
Yeah.
So then allow someone else to maybe open up. Like, he causes an issue because he is so large. Yeah. Like, and how he can, be able to manipulate his body to be able to kind of get to the drop of the ball and push people off it. So, I look at like 75% you're playing him.
Then it comes to matchups, because if you can see weakness, if he can't run and you can run spread off him, that's just another thing that you got to take into consideration.
That's an interesting idea.
It's going to be an interesting final series. We talk about Port Adelaide. Now, they are going so low under the radar. No one's talking about Port.
I love it.
Ken Hinckley's over there just getting it done. They were very loud when Port was shit.
Yeah, they were very loud.
All the media, everyone loves to call for people's heads, but as soon as they're good, and they are absolutely cherry ripe and flying at the moment, they just came over here and they beat Melbourne. I know Melbourne's a bit banged up and low, but this was Melbourne's season on the line and they got the job done. So they are prime for a good run at it. They got the valuable win at the MCG, because not a lot of these interstate teams get games at the MCG full stop, let alone come over here and win one. But they just seem to have the players that have the urgency to win these games, to stand up. You got Butters, you got Horny Frank, you got a bunch in there. Rosie and who else? Their forward line's pretty stacked. Yeah, so they bolstered their defense as well. They got Alir back there a while back, and now they got Zerk Thatcher. So they're pretty much set around the ground, and they've got a fair bit of experience. They're not a young team. They're more of a middle team based with the other teams that are running around out there. So I feel like Kenny Hinckley's got his boys up and firing at the perfect time to have them cherry ripe going into finals.
And we love it. We love Ken Hinckley. It's just like, there's something about it because it's just, I think I love it even more because Port fans are just so freaking ruthless. Like, just absolutely assholes to their team. Like, if they lose, they're one of the like worst supporter base as far as like supporting through thick and thin, I feel like. And the fact that they're going well, and it's just kind of like this whole thing of everyone was like on the back, like, man, we got to fire Ken, we got to do this, we got to redo the whole place, you know, we got, what's his name, Kochi left, you know, we're like, oh, it's a new, we got to do a new generation of shit, whatever it is. And now they're winning. They're like, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. maybe, just maybe, I jumped the gun a little bit too early.
I feel like you look at Port fans and they're frustrated they don't have anything to be shitty about.
Yes, they're mad that they don't have something to be mad about. And I'm like, mate, you live in Adelaide. Oh, geez, sorry, Adelaide people. It's a lovely place, actually. It's a beautiful place.
You're still the big winners, so you got to be grinning at the moment. We'll talk about the big losers because there's none bigger loser this weekend than the obvious. And we talked about them last week because they haven't played a final. They haven't won a final in, over half my life. There's been players that are running out there that have never seen them win a final. We talk about it every week, but Essendon, they find a new way to disappoint their fan base every single week, and this one was an absolute perler because if you had to script it beforehand, you couldn't have written this because they go into the last quarter, they're doing well, they kick 1-9. They have 10 shots at goal. They probably had more. They probably kicked more out in the full, but they kicked 1-9. We had Stringer kicked 3 points in the last quarter. Oh, my goodness. They were looking so good before that. And all the Gold Coast had to do was kick 2 goals in the last quarter, and one they couldn't even keep it in between the sirens. They had to kick one after the siren to get the job done. Big Mac Andrew goes back, takes a mark, goes back. The best part about it is it looks like it's missing early. People in the top tier go up celebrating, and then it bends straight back in. He gives them the shush, running into the pocket, and I don't even know. We talked about it last week that they are normally just devoid of all joy and anything going into these games. I don't even think any of them were surprised it happened. It cut to the crowd and they were like, oh, yeah, that's pretty standard. Then they're like packing up their bags and stuff and on their way home. Like,
it's so sad. You have to feel for Essendon fans. You have to feel for them. Like, it would be so frustrating, to get into the last quarter and have that score of 1-9 to 2-0. And you're thinking, like, it's the hope. I think it's the hope that gets you, right? It's the, oh, man, like, this is our year. Every start of the year, this is our year. And they've got this just unbiased, just like, go for it, hope.
Yeah.
And then you just see it just get cut down and cut down until you get to this time of year and they've just lost all self-respect. They're throwing their scarf out on the field.
It's fair.
They're burning their memberships.
It's fair.
And then the funny thing that always gets me, next year,
they'll be back.
It's back, baby. It's back.
How do you do it to yourself? How do you get?
You got no one to blame but yourself.
How do you get that membership pack in the mail? You pull out that nice crisp sticker that's going to say Essendon season 2025. How do you peel the back off that bad boy and stick it to the back of your car and then drive around with that thing on all year knowing it's going to be...
take off the stickers if the team goes bad?
I don't know.
Do people just go, oh, maybe not. I don't want to promote that I'm a member this year.
If I saw someone rolling around with 20-odd Essendon stickers on the back of their car, one... they've got a very durable car. That car's gone a lot of years. That's done a lot of clicks. Yeah. 2, that is a very resilient person driving that thing. So, I don't know. I feel bad for you guys. There was an extra one. Draper was kicking them from everywhere. He ran from a stoppage, took a bounce, kicked one from 50. Great celebration. Another one just after, kicked a set shot, did the Turkish man gun celebration, then went on to miss 2 absolute sodas in the last quarter. Just all these things that add up. Oh, the last one. We can't not talk about it. Gresham pushed his opponent in the back. Ball fell to him. He didn't hear the whistle. He runs right into the goals, kicks it through the goal, celebrates. He's high-fiving all the blokes in the crowd. and they call it back, push in the back. What are you doing? Lucky not to get a 50-metre pen. Didn't matter in the end because Big Mac Andrew goes down the other end and kicks the goal.
Credit to Mac Andrew. Oh, he's a legend. Oh, he's a great story. Incredible story.
Great swing to go from back to
Incredible
forward.
story. Yeah, back to forward. I remember playing on him. He's an athletic freak. He can jump out of the gym, that man. And yeah, it was great to see him own that moment and be able to make the most of it. And once again, sorry, Essendon.
Now that we've got that out of the way, let's speed run a couple of these other losers. Freo, they're the ultimate bag fumblers this year. They could have been second probably around 3 times, at least 2, and they gone on to lose. They lost to Essendon, then they go Geelong at home, lose to them. Now they make it very hard on themselves to even make finals, which is crazy to think. They have to beat GWS next week in Sydney, which is no easy feat. And then they have to beat Port in Perth last round.
Yeah.
That could be to make finals. That's
wild.
That's not a situation you want to be putting yourself in. So not only did they fumble the bag and screw up a home finals chance and a double chance at finals, they've really cost themselves and could be losing their spot inside the 8. Brisbane, you know, it's pretty hard to give them the big losers, but I'm going to give it to them just because the slide. They went from 2nd to 5th, so they dropped out of the top 4. And they kicked 1 goal for to 6 goals in the last to get overrun, lost by 3 goals.
Oh, no.
So that's a real unfortunate one for Brisbane, but they still are. They're up there. They're a strong team. Western Bulldogs, not a crazy loss, but just costly for their ladder position. Could have done great things, could have jumped up.
Adelaide's a team I feel like a lot of people have said they're an easy win. But I was looking at all their games and stuff. Most of them are like within 10 points.
Yeah.
It is actually like they're not a walkover team that people think they are.
And I feel like they're so close to getting it to click right. I thought this season was going to be better, a bit inconsistent, but it's just another season under their belt. They've still got really young players outside of Tex Walker, who's 150 years old, but still doing good things. But yeah, the Fog. I saw the Fog play on the weekend, and there's some good things. There's like cracking the first tin on like a sunny Sunday afternoon. One of the great things out there, mowing the lawn.
Nailing a parallel park.
Oh, just all of those things. And then above all of those, watching the Fog kick a set shot goal. He's just crispy, fluid action. Doesn't even look like he kicks it hard and it goes 60 metres. It's just a delicious thing to just watch from afar and admire. I couldn't kick over a jam tin. I saw some of your kicks on the weekend. Jeez, a jam tin. I don't know. You couldn't kick over an A4 piece of paper. Let's jump straight into this because instead of just calling them a big loser, we'll go straight into the Collingwood segment because it was rough for everyone.
Yeah,
it was rough for everyone. And I want to just off the top, let's go into therapy.
Let's go to therapy.
What happened?
Oh, man, we played well for 3 quarters, and then Sydney came home hot, and Isaac Heaney just decided to be everywhere. Everywhere, legitimately. I don't know how. I don't know. He multiplied, had a few twins out there or something or what, but every time I looked up, somehow the ball's just sitting there right next to him, just getting into his hands. So
and like in the midfield, and then like he's in the goal square. And it's like, that's not possible. That's teleportation.
No, he's doing this. It was crazy. Yeah, he's an incredible player. Him and Chad Warner obviously played really well over the weekend. And we just we struggled to be able to hold the lead in the 4th quarter, and they came home very, very strong. And
rough.
I want to say so much. So much, Brayden, but you know how this works.
Sometimes it's good to just suppress some things.
Shock collar on from the AFL.
Sometimes it's good to just suppress some things. So we'll keep going through our list of things, and I might draw some out of you. Yeah. I want to start with the positive because you did kick a goal, and then you did one of the more unfortunate celebrations to give a crowd when you end up losing the game is the shush.
We're going pretty well at that point.
What was the shush about? Were you getting stick from the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, Sydney's an interesting place, right? The MCG, like behind the bench stuff
SCG.
Is all.
MCG.
No, the MCG, it's all media and stuff, so you don't really get too many hecklers. But like at the SCG, it is literally as soon as you sit up out of the off the bench, it's like people heckling you, and you're sitting there like, okay, mate, come on, like we're in Sydney, bros. Take it back. So yeah, there's just people talking trash up there, and they do have a hostile crowd. I think like there's been a bit of there's been some really big games I think between us and Sydney. Obviously the prelim up there and stuff like that. So
they booed an injured Jack Ginnivan.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that Sydney's done. I don't think they. I mean, last I heard, there's like dating meetups and stuff going on at these games. Like, I don't know. To whatever to get fans there, I'm all for it.
But to the next Sydney game.
Yeah, I know we need to. We should actually join that. There's a lot going on up there, but yeah, you cop a little bit over the boundary, I guess, in Sydney. So like I said, if someone's willing to give it to me, I'm happy to give it back to them.
I like that. Yeah. And I like it. I'll break it down. Just a real quick. Let's look at this in a nutshell. The things I like player taunting. Yeah. I also like the ability to give it back to a player within reason. And then I like the player not only taunting like other players and stuff like that. I like them being able to taunt the crowd. We've seen a couple of good ones. As long as no one oversteps a line, I like it all. So say you shush the crowd and then you kick that other one that you did kick that was a shocker.
No, talking about
if they're shushing you back, I think that's great banter. That's great banter both sides.
It's usually the USA chant back if I screw something up.
Yeah, stuff like that. I like that. It can obviously cross a line, but
has before.
I like it for the most part across the board. There's a lot of people that I feel 80% of people are probably on board with the let's not go wild stuff. And then there's another 20% that think they're joining in, but taking it way too far. Way too far.
They just need to be reeled back in.
Just reel it back in. But I don't know.
I wish we still could be able to taunt on the mark. Oh man, that was one of the coolest things about AFL whenever I first saw it. I was like, people doing handstands and pulling their shirt up and throwing grass at the person kick. I was like, this is fun. This is great entertainment.
The fake grass toss, how is that pulled out?
Oh no, it was real.
Yeah, but it
is real grass toss. I mean, it's
the guys will take out their mouth guard and pretend to throw their mouth guard. Who's that hurting? Bring that back. All those ones are fine.
You think?
I think they're fine. What's he gonna? Oh, I thought he was gonna throw a mouth guard at me.
50,
like a little piece of 50. Rubber, mate. You get hip and shouldered to the dome, and you come on. Anyway,
it's a vision of death.
Anyway, I like the thought of bringing it back. I do want to stop on it a tiny bit because you did. Yes. We got to clarify this, and anyone.
Jeez, please clarify.
We know our podcast audience is the more sophisticated audience.
Yeah, of course.
Our audience, we know it, and we discussed it last week. But there's still some idiots out there. You jumping up and down on the mark. You did it again on the weekend, and I think they were saying it on the commentary. I'm pretty sure. I'm not calling BT an idiot. We love BT, but he was saying, "Oh, you can't jump up and down." We got told that it's to stand. What? You got to stand. The whole commentary box was talking about standing.
Team's just as clear on rules as we are.
Exactly. So that's why. This is why there's more confusion. So you can jump up and down on the spot.
Yeah, so you can jump up and down on the spot. Can't go forward. Can't go back. Can't move side to side. You can go up and down. You can't go anywhere else.
Late, you did kind of jump off to the side. But we'll ignore that because the umpire somehow didn't see it. So I think maybe that's
very oddly.
They want a bit of that. It's a big call. Anyway,
as soon as he kicks it, you can kind of as long as the ball hits. I mean, as soon as the ball hits his foot, it's play on.
Yeah, and if he comes off his line, you can't arc. And grey areas. We love grey areas. Anyway, let's jump into it because you did play against one of your good mates, Brodie Grundy.
BG.
There was a fair bit of byplay. It was a pretty even contest across the board.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who won and lost.
We don't need to go there.
Yeah, we don't need to go there. But there was a moment where you took a mark in front of Brodie Grundy, which was pretty wild.
Thank you.
One grabber too. Yeah. Big one grab pluck. And it cut to Brodie, and Brodie had a big smile on his face. And when you were going back on the mark, you had a big smile on your face. And I want to know what the byplay of all of that was.
It's like playing a professional sport against one of your really good friends.
Yeah.
It's weird to think that you played together for 8 years, 8 or 9 years, whatever it was, and then now you're supposed to hate each other. Yeah. It's look, man, and you want each person wants the other one to be successful, obviously, but whenever you're playing them, it's the total opposite of what you want because you're obviously their direct matchup. So I think it was just kind of funny because as ruckman, there's a bit of a ruckman club. You know, you have a bit of a chatter out on the field because you're kind of running next to each other for most of the game. And there's a bit of respect towards each other, you could say, right? As a big man. And, Brodie, you kind of have a little chat, around. Just say, how you going? What's up? This is a bit weird. Kind of experience, you're talking a bit of trash to each other, and someone does something good. It's not the end of the world, You're just going to have a bit of a laugh about it. And you're not going to win every single contest. So, you say, well done or congrats or whatever it is, and get fucked at the same time. It's quite funny. I think I find it as like a unique experience and one that I really enjoy because you want to play against some of the best people, and Brodie's like one of the best ruckmen in the comp.
Yeah.
But I think there's just like a real kind of respect between the people at the same time and a real enjoyment playing against each other, knowing like you've trained against each other for 8 years. So each one of them's like little habits and little things that they do. And, you probably have a bit more of an understanding of every kind of like thing they're going to do on a game day rather than someone who's just looking at film.
Yeah.
And you understand their mental headspace and like what gets them off and like, that sounded really gross.
Yeah.
What throws them off and things like that, So it's kind of like this whole kind of game against each other, and it's quite fun just to screw with each other around it. And that's over the weekend it was quite funny.
I thought he was surprised that you took a one grab mark on him.
He probably was.
But you did go back, and I had complete and utter confidence in your kicking ability.
Yep.
The little graphic popped up on the screen, said 5-4 from set shots. I was like, that's not as good as it once was.
No.
And then you went back, and I don't know what you did here because it went not high, not far, and skewed heavily right. But it was a very nice assist in the end.
It didn't count for a goal or a behind, Brayden. So that 5-4 is still standing.
When you're like, pop it to the top of the square when you're like 5 meters out from the top of the square, it's a bit different.
Yeah, it was one of the SCGs, a very wide ground, and I think I pulled off the mark, and I kind of looked up and realized I could barely see a sliver of space between the two big posts. So I was kind of like, I should probably be snapping this, but there was not enough time to be able to go back and then set up a snap. So you just had to commit to the process, and it didn't go so well. I mean, luckily we scored off it. So who's to say that wasn't what I was meaning to do?
Set play.
It was my intention for us to get 6 points out of that play, and we did, Brayden.
Set play every week. Set play. Watch out for it next week because it'll come back again. We may as well just keep riffing on you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Because there was a moment where you gave away a ruck free kick. Now, whether it was there or not, that's already decided and it's in the book.
Yep.
but you lost your shit. And you were like, you can't be serious. You're bending over in half or whatever, and then it cuts to the wide shot, and you're just staring bullets through the umpire, poor umpire.
Explain what's going on.
I feel like that's probably a better move, is to just shut your mouth and just stare as hard as you can at him, because you can't really get in trouble for staring, right? And then anyway, it goes... I hope not. Anyway, it goes further down the field, and you thought you gave away another free kick, true?
Yes. Well, Brodie goes back to get the ball as if he was coming off the mark, and I was like, I give up. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea how that could have been a free kick. And then he's like, Heaney, you could get the ball. And I was like, good chat, mate. Just head back to D50. You boys enjoy the footy. The first one I was livid on, and then to call it, and I was like, "What happened?" He just was like, "Not free kick." And I'm like, "No, explain what happened, because I have no idea what I did." And then you kind of usually get an explanation from the umpire later on, whatever maybe. But and then the second one, I was just like, it was within a minute of each other, and I was just already on edge. And I was like, mate, oh boy,
you were just revving up to it.
Oh boy, wowee!
You were just revving up to really give both barrels. There was a 50-meter penalty just on the precipice, just on the horizon, and then it was Heaney, it's yours, and you just, yep,
yeah, okay, all right. Good chat.
Good call. He was held for sure. Oh, my God. So then we move on from there. Now, this one, I'm sure you would have copped no criticism over this incident at all. Late in the game, ruck contest, you didn't have an opponent in the ruck, deep inside your forward line, game in the balance. You had an opportunity to either take the ball out of the ruck or tap it, set plays to teammates running whatever routes, and you decided to go the tap.
Yeah.
What went through your head in that moment?
Yeah, whenever it says no rock Sydney or whatever it was, that does go through your mind like kind of how much space do I have around me? Can I kind of pull this out and be able to kick, be able to get good contact on a ball and get it in the direction that is between the two big ones. It's very hard to do because usually you maybe have half a second before, like once they realize that there's no one there, usually the defenders probably bang right on you pretty quickly and you get tackled. So they did cross my mind as soon as he said it, but I think you kind of we're a pretty good forward 50 stoppage team. So you kind of, back that in. And to be honest, when you got, people like Nick Dacos running around, it's pretty tough not to be giving him a hit out. So yeah, you back in, the set play that you have running. And they had a spare behind the ball. I think it was Nick Blakely, I want to say, that took it out and, kicked it out. And that was kind of the end of it. But you definitely think about it as a rock. If it was a different time of the game and a different score, you'd probably be more willing to do it. But I think in such a close game, given the percentages of it actually being successful or not being so high, you probably don't err on doing it.
Yeah.
If you're like first quarter, you're up by 15, maybe 20 points, you might think about doing it, right? Or maybe take it out of the rock and have someone come to tackle you, handball to his man, and then you try to get a goal out of it. But in that moment, I don't think it's probably the percentage play.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The highest percentage play is probably try to kick a goal. But it does cross your mind.
Well, it's all hindsight stuff. If you had tapped it and it went to a teammate and you kicked the goal, you're a legend. If you had taken it out of the ruck and got tackled straight away, you're a bigger villain. Because look at you trying to win the game off your own boot. It's a very hard situation to put yourself in because you've also got, and I'm not sure in that moment that it could quickly go through your head, but what your coach would say, what your teammates would say.
Player, right? You want to play your role in the team, and that's my role, to tap the ball.
I do a lot of people have put your ability on such a pedestal that they think that the 2.1 meter tall bloke can snatch it out of the ruck and quickly get it on his boot, snap it through. But
did they see the set shot before?
Looking back at the replay, there was two Sydney blokes that identified really quick that you were one out in the ruck and got to you straight away. So
it's pretty obvious whenever they go, no rock Sydney, no rock Sydney.
So you would have got shut down pretty quick. But it was just one to bring up. Now, your coach did speak on this post-game. Mm-hmm. Got a nice little warning from the AFL to say, hey, stop showing personality out there and telling us what you think. Was it a 50-metre penalty in the Dan McStay, Tom McCartan kind of mark in the middle of the ground?
What do you think, Brayden? Just going to ask you.
I will give you my opinion on it because I'm probably the only one that can. And for mine, I get that the North Melbourne one earlier in the year that people are, tying it to. Mm-hmm. I feel like that was probably a 50 as well. So I don't see how that's any different. But going into this one, I feel like McCartan wasn't in the mark. It wasn't a marking contest. So he was kind of there second. Dan took the mark. There is a bit of leeway for momentum, but I feel like he went beyond that momentum point. There was about 3 or 4 steps. There was a point where you could see that he could have pulled up and he didn't, and then he went another 3 or 4 steps, and then Dan turned around, pointed, and then that's where I feel like that's the 50. Then beyond that, umpire's calling him back. He takes 2 steps, but Dan's already played on. I think it's wild that if he had got a smother on that, that shouldn't be able to happen. He's taken a mark. He's gone 10 meters over the mark and then gets a smother on. He gets the kick around and it doesn't really result in anything. But I think it's probably a 50 by the letter of the law. And then on top of comments around, if it was at the MCG, I think you get that bias if it's in your home city. I don't think it's the stadium or the umpiring or anything plays a result in that. You see it a lot when it goes to West Coast playing in Perth. They get a lot of momentum and they get the umpires across the line. There was a lot of deliberates paid when the Sydney fans got full voice. I thought you were really hard done by because you tapped yours around your opponent and it was going so slowly to the boundary. You could have got back to it and picked it up, but you were blocked and tackled off the ball And then when it slowly trickled across the boundary line, you got done for deliberate. Now, I think that's a bit harsh. Darcy Moore to Darcy Cameron, I thought that was a bit harsh because he's clearly trying to get it around his opponent to Darcy Cameron and it goes out of bounds. I thought those two were pretty harsh. But then I thought there was a lot. I don't know if you realised this at the time, but there was a bloody heck of a lot of deliberates. There was so many deliberates. And I think not all of them were there, but I feel like there was a lot of them there. All in all, I think it was pretty well adjudicated in terms of the match. But there was very costly ones, and there's been a lot of very costly ones this year where the AFL, to their credit, not that it helps at all, have come out and said, whoopsie, yeah, we cost you that game probably about 5-6 times this year. So I don't know where I sit on that, but, maybe we should just get better and we will try to get better as podcasters. They try to get better at what they do. Everyone should just improve. So that's all I'm going to say on it.
All valid points, Brayden. That's all I'm going to say.
All valid points.
Plead the fifth on most of that, but all valid points.
We all got to get better. If you come out and say that you don't want to improve as a human, what are you doing? You need to look in the mirror and look at yourself. I do want to jump into this one. We need to get a bit of praise. Lastly, we'll say Heaney, Warner, massive congratulations for how well you played in the last quarter. Yep. Very well done. Fuck me. Good on you. Anyway, Jeremy Howe, 250th game, absolute legend of a bloke. Nicest bloke out there. Cool to see him out there with Xander running through the banner, doing all the nice stuff that we like for 250s. I feel like a lot of 250s got kind of zoned out when Pendles was doing his 400. But we've seen a few 250s in recent weeks, and none more deserving than Howie, who obviously come across from Melbourne, moved from forward to back, been great in defence, came back from a really, really serious broken arm. We heard the story on our podcast, if you haven't heard it, got infected, had to go through that whole process, didn't know if he was going to get back, has come back and played some really good footy. Yeah,
we had him on the podcast and got to interview him about all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't listened to it, go back and look it up. But incredible human being. One of the people I think that I've looked at probably is, for advice and just the way he lives his life and like the way he interacts with people and everything else is just so positive and so loving, I think. And you look at that and you're like, man, if I can take a leaf out of his book, I'll be a better human for it. So for him to get 250, awesome accomplishment, and to have his family there with his wife and kid at the game was just so cool to see. And he's been through a lot of tough times in his career. As all AFL players, I feel like kind of do that, get to that kind of milestone, and it's a credit to him and his resilience to be able to kind of fight through that and be able to get out the other side and be playing such good football still. Like you said, he had the arm injury that was so serious, like it was insane, some of the stuff he went through. And he's had some other stuff that's been really, tough to kind of get through. And it's crazy to me because I think like if I were in the same situation and some of the same stuff happened to me, I don't know that I'd be able to kind of fight through that. And, his ability to just rock up with a smile every single day still and just be the happy-go-lucky guy that he is just one of those things you just kind of admire. You're like, man, I wish I could be like that, and have that every single day and be able to have such a positive attitude. And I think that's one thing that I'll forever be grateful whenever, you sit there and say, like, I played with that guy, Jeremy Howe. You'd be like, man, that was one of the people I really like kind of looked up to and admired during my playing days.
Absolute ripper. Nicest guy. He would always, go the extra mile for us when we were in the media department. Met him a few times on other podcasts outside of footy, had a couple of beers with him. He's just a ripping bloke. I had 12. He had probably a responsible 1 or 2. And before we go into our preview, I did want to bring up one more incident from the weekend. Tex Walker, massive legend of the game, big Tex, went off subbed. Bad eye poke. Yeah. So he was sitting on the back of the bench. Miserable. We don't like eye pokes.
I might be getting a phone call.
Yeah, we're getting
in all the wrong ways.
We're getting a little brigade together. Yeah. The eye poke All Australian list.
Man, Roy Sloan had a real big issue with it throughout his kind of career. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see kind of how that pans out. But hey, prayers up. Hopefully it's all right, Max. It is quite serious.
We don't like eye pokes at all. Let's go into the preview for the week. Essendon, Sydney, here in Melbourne. Oh, there's no way that I can look at Essendon and get around them at all. I can't.
Yeah. Sydney.
Yeah.
I've got this feeling for the next 2 games to finish off the year, Sydney's going to go on a tear.
Yeah. They kind of have to.
They're going to go back to being the flag
finish on
favourites
top
for
of the
a lot
ladder.
people.
You got to get that momentum back. Let's talk about Gold Coast, Melbourne. I think Melbourne's packed her up for the year. Gold Coast still seems to be punching, still seems to be fighting. They got a bit of excitement around their team and around the list. What do you?
Confidence after last week beating Essendon by 1 point, I think. Yeah, big Gold Coast. Gold Coast over Melbourne. I'll pick that one.
Yeah, GWS Freo. This is going to be my lock because I looked at it. There's too many easy locks this week, and we don't like easy locks. We like putting the balls on the line for the cock lock. We go.
I just heard that.
I'm going to go GWS to get this win against Freo. Freo's fighting for finals, so they're going to be desperate. But I just feel like GWS are going to be that good.
Yeah, I'll have to go GWS over Freo. And Freo, like you said, it's got an interesting little finish to the season. It's going to be unique to see kind of what happens with them. That's a big watch. Have a little watch out for Freo. I'm going to recheck the stats and the scores. Have a look out for how they're going. Let's go to the next one. What we got? I got GWS in that one.
We got the showdown up next, Port v Adelaide. So anything can happen in this one. Obviously, Adelaide coming off a big win last week, and Port are doing Port things at the moment.
Yeah, Port going really well. Adelaide also, like I said, taking teams to the line. Obviously got a win over the weekend against the Western Bulldogs. Big W. I think it's going to be a lot closer game than people probably think. But I've still got Port Adelaide winning at Adelaide Oval. I think it'd be a good game.
Yeah,
I think the showdown might be like the game of the round as far as how close it's going to be.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make that statement. Yeah.
I'll give it to Adelaide just because like you really can't pick it. And I know Port need to be cherry ripe, but I feel like Adelaide, their season's done. What can you get up for the rest of the year? They'll have them fully rallied for this game, and it'll be like the idea of spoiling finals for Port will motivate them more than anything. And they're an exciting team when they get up and running. When you have nothing to lose, you just attack with absolute freedom. So let's see how that goes. St Kilda, Geelong. Now, I don't see St Kilda doing this, but, I'd love to see it, but I just don't see it.
I'm going to make a controversial statement here.
What?
I'm going to go St Kilda winning this game.
St Kilda beat Geelong.
I've got this feeling. I've just got this feeling that St Kilda just kind of bobs up out of nowhere and just says, you know what, Geelong, you've looked past us. We're gonna have a little. We're gonna have a crack. I don't know. I'll say the win because it's a statement, but like I think St Kilda will at least have a quarter, maybe the first or second quarter, where Geelong will be a bit. Oh wow, we should probably turn things on now.
Oh, it does make sense. They built themselves up for the Perth game against Freo, went across there, got the win. You got to travel all the way back. You got to readjust your time. Not only do you have to travel, you got to travel back to Melbourne and then travel all the way back to Geelong, which is another, thing in itself. But I'm going Geelong.
I want something that's different. I like that one. St Kilda getting over Geelong.
I like that. Western Bulldogs beat North, right?
Yeah, that's an easy dub. Yep.
Hawthorn flog Richmond. Oh my God.
Another easy W.
West Coast Carlton. Carlton are on the ropes in terms of injuries.
Yeah, there was like 4 or 5. Like Saad did a hamstring, I want to say, or something.
Well, as we record this, we don't know what Harry Mackay is doing. Kerno is like cooked with his ankle. Saad injured.
Like there's 2 others I want to say they got injured over the weekend too.
Jack did his hamstring.
West Coast.
Yeah, I feel
West Coast.
I feel like they're a chance.
West Coast versus Carlton.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be a dagger for Carlton fans if that happens.
Yeah, I feel like, and players get that same momentum that some fans do. Now, I hate watching teams almost as much as I like supporting teams. Yeah. So, like, I do like a Collingwood game, but I like seeing the teams I don't like perform poorly.
So that's essentially you're every fan, but just in the reverse for Collingwood.
Yeah.
Every fan loves to see Collingwood lose.
Yeah. See, so like I love a team that's on the precipice of the 8.
Yeah.
And if they get this win against a lowly team, they'll make the 8. But then the lowly team, the underdog, gets the job done.
Yeah.
There's just nothing better than it. It's pure theatrics. And I want West Coast to win this game.
West Coast, Harley Reid to take a hanger.
Oh.
That's what I must say.
And the mud flap, Waterman to kick 4. and Oscar Allen to kick 4.
Wow.
And now let's jump into
Wiedeman's still playing though. You can't be making absurd things like that. Wiedering.
Collingwood, Brisbane, the grand final rematch. Probably not the billing that it's built up that we'd expect. At the MCG, can you spoil them? Can you spoil their run to the top 4 in finals?
That's the plan. That is the plan, Stan. At the MCG, it'd be a grand final rematch. It's kind of interesting to kind of see how both teams have kind of panned out throughout the year after being in the grand final last year. But Brisbane's a quality opposition that's going really well. I know they lost last week, but like you said, I think they had won 9 in a row previously, so it's going to be a challenge for us. And statistically, I think we're still a chance to make the 8. So, as long as that's out there and availability, we're going to put one foot in front of the other and do as much as we can to try to get as many wins on the board.
Love that. One foot in front of the other. Good cliche. All right, that's it. That's our podcast.
What's your car clock?
I gave mine to GWS over Freo.
I'm going to go Gold Coast over Melbourne.
Yeah, it's just good enough. It's just good enough.
Mac Andrew to kick 4.
Yeah.
I'm on the Mac Andrew train, baby. Let's go.
No Stephen May.
Oh, man.
So let's see.
Let him have it. Let him have it. Well, that is it for the podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, you're not an Essendon fan.
I think we lost them last week.
You have absolutely torn them apart in this episode once again. But hopefully all your teams have got up over the weekend, and hopefully your teams do this weekend. But massive, massive thank you for listening in for the podcast. Hopefully you've had a laugh throughout this, and you've learned something maybe that you didn't know before. Who knows? But just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. France still sucks, and I hope you have an incredible week ahead of you. Peace!
Yeah.